We are happy to welcome in this morning Senator Jeremy England. He joins us in studio and represents District 51. He is chair of elections, vice chair of ports and marine resources, and has been in the news a little bit in the last week or so. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Richard. Hey, it's so good to be here with you this morning. Congrats on the new show, man. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Certainly big shoes to fill, but an honor to be here, and I hope we're having some fun and informing a little bit. Let's just start with the elephant in the room. You have the tweet last week that comes from Governor Tate Reeves, and it targets you. I'll read it. This was the day before Valentine's Day. He said, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." There was a picture, part of a Clarion Ledger headline with you and Derek Simmons on the Senate floor. Derek Simmons, the Senate Minority Leader. And then the body of the tweet was Senator Jeremy England, MS. You may think it's funny that you are working with the Senate Democrat Minority Leader to pass the Democrats' priorities, but I do not. Fairly personal attack from the governor on you. What was your reaction?
Well, look, it was an unfortunate tweet. My first reaction was, somebody needs to tackle whoever's operating the governor's Twitter account. This just does not look good. And look, Derek Simmons is a friend of mine. We disagree on many, many things. We have a different political ideology, of course. But that picture was actually taken on the first day of legislative session, and Senator Simmons had just told me, my wife was in the chamber with me, he said, Jeremy, you really outkicked your coverage. And so I was laughing. She was laughing. It was a great moment. It's a moment that I think that I'll always remember, and I'll remember all of my colleagues, when we're all finished doing this job we're doing and that we're all away from our family doing. But the most unfortunate thing I think about it, Rich, is every time I talk to whether it be a group of high school students or a room full of 300 people at the Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce meetings that they have, I'm always sure to mention, hey, whatever you're seeing on the news going on in Washington with the political fighting and back and forth and headbutting, that's not how we do things in Mississippi. We're cordial. We'll fight on the floor. We'll fight for our different bills and make our different points. But at the end of the day, we're friends, and that's how we need to keep it here in Mississippi. And I just don't think that tweet was helpful to that message.
I suppose it doesn't really matter, because the governor's name is on that Twitter account. It's Governor Tate Reeves. Do you believe he tweeted that or somebody on his staff did?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I will say that I've had conversations with Governor Reeves, and look, I think he's doing a great job as governor. I think that the economic development that we're seeing right now is great. We just disagree on this one issue, and I'll be happy if you'll allow me here in a little bit to explain what the bill does that we're in disagreement about. But look, I disagree with the lieutenant governor sometimes. I disagree with my desk mate next to me sometimes. We don't. Me and my desk might get a little personal. We just pick on each other, but that's not how things operate. It's not very productive. I haven't seen anyone attack my bill on the merits, and I think that's important to think about. But I don't know who did the tweet, Richard. I don't care. We've got so many things going on and so many good things that I think we're going to accomplish this session. That's what I'm trying to be laser focused on.
Have you and the governor spoken in the 6 days since that tweet was put out?
We haven't. I haven't reached out to him, and he hasn't reached out to me. So it's not that's not his fault or one thing or the other. But look, I'm happy moving on from it, whether I hear from him or not.
Does he owe you an apology?
I don't think so. Look, I don't appreciate the way that he handled it, or that his team handled it. I don't think it was fair to the people of Mississippi for us to bicker on a personal level rather than getting in to the actual merits of the bill and having a good, constructive debate on what we're trying to do here. But I'm not. Look, I'm not waiting for an apology. It doesn't bother me one bit. I'm moving forward. I'm representing the people of District 51, trying to keep my good name for my family, who that my name belongs to them just as much as it belongs to me. And I think people know me. They know through my character and through my actions. I don't really worry what somebody else says. I think that I can let that speak for itself.
So we talked about this on Monday a little bit, and I actually raised a point similar to what you said a second ago. I think the governor's done a good job on a lot of fronts, a great job on a lot of fronts. And to me, the biggest the biggest star in his crown is what he's done from an economic development standpoint and continues to do. I didn't like the tone of this, but specific to this issue, I think it's pretty good legislation. We're talking about an early voting bill for Mississippi. And at least as I understand it, the governor's contention is that this could lead to fraud within elections. And he pointed to some issues that have happened specifically in Hinds County as reason for concern. My counter to that would be there are a majority of states have got early voting, and places like Florida and Texas, which are strong Republican states, not only have early voting, but they seem to run their elections with a great deal of efficiency. So tell us a little bit about the bill itself, the early voting bill that you are championing.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. So, yes, and look, 47 other states do this, and you haven't seen early voting implemented in a way that it's changed any states from red to blue states or vice versa. That just doesn't happen. What you do see is increased voter turnout, which is what we all want. But what my bill does, Richard, it gets rid of the in-person absentee system that we have now, which is where you go in and you swear an oath that you will be out of town, or that you meet one of these very specific excuses to be able to vote in-person absentee in Mississippi right now. It gets rid of that, and it gives everyone 15 days to show up early at your clerk's office, show a valid photo ID. You're then checked in just like you are on election day, so you're marked as having received and cast a ballot, and then you're actually printed a ballot. You fill that ballot out and you put it in the ballot machine, again, just like on election day. So the good thing about that, there's two good things about that, really. If you miss something on your ballot, that ballot machine is going to kick it back out to you and give you another chance to correct it. You don't have that now. If you put your ballot in an envelope right now for absentee, and somebody checks it and finds a stray mark or something, they could toss your ballot.
Right.
So that wouldn't happen. The other really good thing about that is once your vote is cast on election night, and only on election night after 7 p.m., those votes are tabulated. So we have the results right then, and there is nothing better to help the integrity and the security of an election than having votes tabulated and counted on election night. So that's what my bill does. It's very safe. It's very secure. We have a great Secretary of State right now. We had one before as well, by the way, that put a lot of this stuff in place. We have great circuit clerks. We have great elections commissioners. I visited with all of them. Well, there are associations that represent all of them, and they're great people. If somebody's going to break the law, Richard, we make the laws. If somebody breaks it, we should pursue that. It doesn't mean we shouldn't start making new laws and improving our system. Just like the situation on the border, for example. We saw that where we have great laws that were in place at the border. The last administration just wasn't implementing those laws, and things kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
One of the pushbacks that I've heard with regard to this particular bill, early voting through the clerk's office, is that some of the circuit clerk's offices may not be equipped to handle this in terms of a workload. I'm not sure that I buy that, but it is something that does strike me as legitimate, at least in some counties in Mississippi.
Yes, and look, that's something I've talked with several clerks about, and I said, look, if we can change things as we go. If we see there's a need for you to vote or to be able to carry out this process somewhere else. Now, look, I'm going to insist that it's in the courthouse, and I've talked to Lieutenant Governor about this as well, and he's insisting on the same. It's in a secure county building at the courthouse. But what the issue is, we have a SIMS system, which is your Mississippi voter system, election system, and it has personal information on it. So we've got to keep that secure. But Richard, I can guarantee every circuit clerk out there that I'll listen to them and will work with them if there are any challenges that arise.
We got more coming up with Senator Jeremy England. You're listening to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, of course, streaming at supertalk.fm. You can watch it at SuperTalk TV if you would like to do that as well. Jeremy England was involved with the wine bill, which looks like that is moving forward. There are a lot of people that are rejoicing in that. We did have somebody say this morning, I wish they were more focused on things other than getting wine shipped to the House. I think the legislature is capable of multitasking. We'll talk about that and more with Senator Jeremy England when we continue with you on MRC. Glad to be with you this morning. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad that you are spending a little bit of time with us. Hey, one last thing on the visiting with Senator Jeremy England. He represents District 51, Chair of Elections, Vice Chair of Ports and Marine Resources. One last thing on the early voting bill. Isn't there a pretty significant argument to be made that Donald Trump is the president today because of early voting?
There is. Look, I think that he accepted the early voting. He wanted it, and look, in fact, he supported it. And Richard, that led to some issues in Mississippi where we had Mississippians watching national news, and President Trump said, "Look, get out and vote early." So folks were going to their polls and then finding out.
Sorry, we can't do that here.
Yeah, we don't do that. And look, I've heard a counter to that says, "Well, Donald Trump only likes it where it's available, or he doesn't like early voting in some states." And I think that's fine. I think that's probably accurate. Look, some states will mail you a ballot without you even requesting it. So there probably are states that he doesn't like it. But I think if he were to look at the merits of this bill, he would say, yes, that's a great bill for Mississippi. Mississippians should have the ability to get out. Hardworking Mississippians should have the ability to vote. I think that's where he would be on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people like seeing in politics, whether it's at the national level or at the state level, is maturity. Mm-hmm. And we don't necessarily always see enough maturity. I thought in a conversation that I had with the Secretary of State on air, Michael Watson, a couple of months back, I asked him about early voting. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, my preference is that we are an election day state, that everybody votes on election day and we have clean, safe elections. He said, but I also recognize that this is a likelihood going forward, and so we're just going to do everything we can to make sure that it's handled the right way, it's fair, it's secure, every vote that is eligible counts the way it's supposed to, and move on from there. And I thought, even if you don't necessarily like something, that's a fairly mature response.
I agree. Yeah, that's the way you handle bills up here. I appreciate Secretary Watson's comments. And look, I appreciate his concerns with my bill or any concerns he may have with early voting. And early voting is such a broad term, Richard. Like I said, some states mail you a ballot. Some states, they just do things different. They open it for a month or more at a time. And we're not doing that here in Mississippi. We're just, the messages that I've received from nurses and doctors and shift workers and parents with busy lives that say, hey, thank you, I missed the last election, or even the weather. Look, the fact that the weather's odd today, like you said in Oxford, we've got people missing schools. If it was election day, it would be a tough day for people to get out and vote, and that could determine who runs our country or who runs our state. That's never sat well with me, that the weather can play that big of a role because we rely on one 12-hour day for you to get out and vote.
Got a question for you from Chad on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Any information on redistricting that has to take place in the Hattiesburg area?
I don't have any specific information on that. I'll say that our Senate Pro Tem Dean Kirby has been working very hard with that. There are going to be a few senators that have to run again this year. I say they are. They're very likely that they're going to have to run again. But I'm hopeful that it'll only be maybe 2 or 3 districts affected in that area. But just stay tuned is the best I can say, and please stay involved in that process so that you know who's out there running this year.
All right. The wine bill has gotten a lot of attention. It's the process by which you can have wine that is not available in package stores, liquor stores in Mississippi, shipped directly to your home from, I guess the easiest example, and I used this earlier in the week, you take a trip to California or Oregon to wine country, Sonoma, Napa, Willamette, wherever it is, and you find a wine there that you like, and it is not available in Mississippi, and you want to order it and have it shipped directly to your home. In the past, you'd have to, find a friend where we are. It's find a friend in Memphis, get it shipped to their home or their office, and then figure out how to get it there. There's some people that say, hey, this is silly, this is frivolous, it makes no sense. And then there are others who are very much on board. And it's taken a little while, a couple of years through the Senate, some delays along the way, but ultimately the Senate passed the bill. The House followed up with that, waiting on the governor's signature. What's the genesis behind all this?
Yeah, so look, Mississippians should be able to enjoy the same privilege that other states, 47 other states, allow direct shipment of wine. So in 47 other states, you can go to Napa, or you can go to Asheville, North Carolina, and the Biltmore Estate, or you can go to wine country in Oregon, and if you find that wine that you like, you can have it shipped to your door. And look, it's only in packaging that you have to have somebody 21 years of age sign for it. It's something that our common carriers like UPS and FedEx, and they do this regularly. So it's not, we haven't had to reinvent the wheel there. But when you mentioned, whether this is, is this a big issue? I would say yes, because I think that we have so many small issues like that they add up when it comes to Mississippi. I mentioned what Governor Tate Reeves is doing with bringing in so much economic development. We want the best and the brightest of other states to move to Mississippi, but when they get here, they say, oh, you're telling me I can't order my wine here that I've been getting in the Wine of the Month Club? Or, again, 47 other states have early voting, so they come here and they say, you're telling me I've got to get up and leave my job on one day to go vote early? Those little things add up when it comes to not only brain drain, but also attracting and keeping people here in Mississippi. So I think there are big things. But I've had more people that I wouldn't expect say, hey, thank you. I can finally get this wine that I couldn't get at the package stores. And I want to give credit to Senator Walter Michel, Senator Josh Harkins, Representative Brent Powell, and Representative Shonda Yates, and Representative Hank Zuber in the House. And there's plenty more, but that's just to name a few, that worked so hard on this bill. And I've had more people reach out and say, finally, thank you so much for this. And we worked, there was a lot of negotiation in this bill. It was a perfect textbook example of how legislation should work. We negotiated all across the board, got a good bill that works for Mississippians, for package stores, and I'm hopeful that the governor signs it.
Economic upside?
Yes. So you mentioned people already do this, get it shipped to Memphis or get it shipped to Louisiana. And folks that are doing that, we are not getting any tax revenue from those bottles of wine. If you go buy wine now and you have these cases shipped to your door, you're going to pay 15.5% tax on top of the sales tax of whatever state you buy it in. So we're going to actually get some revenue from this in Mississippi where we're not getting it already.
Does this only apply to wine? I mean, for bourbon drinkers out there, if they want to have bourbon shipped to their home address, can they do that?
They cannot. This only applies to wine, and it only applies to wines that you either cannot get in Mississippi or wines that are on a limited allocation list. Once they're run out, our ABC will put out a list of those wines that are not available in Mississippi, and then those wines become available for direct ship. So it's a very limited bill, but it's going to open up so many good craft wines for people. And look, liquor stores, package stores, I think are going to benefit from this because when people start doing this, their wine palate changes. They may stop buying this $10 bottle of wine and say, I really want to get that $30 bottle of wine because I went out and tasted this great facilities wine out in California, and you know what, I'm going to come in and buy that more expensive bottle of wine. So
Lance was excited. He said he could get high-end wine to then pour into the Camelback. The backpack with the bladder in it, so he could just drink it and nobody would know. So
that's right.
Be a little sneaky sometimes.
That was Lance's level of excitement.
Lance, I don't know if you can tell by looking at me. I'm not an athlete, so I don't know if wine or water is the best thing. Right. So I don't know if that works, but good for you, Lance. I'm happy for you.
Hey, just a couple of minutes left. This tax reform conversation is what everybody's talking about. Huge differences between House Bill 1 and what we expect to see in the Senate bill. Lieutenant Governor is going to be on with us tomorrow. I guess question number one, when is the actual bill coming?
Yeah, so the bill is being drafted. It's being, there's a lot of editing that goes into it. There's a lot of number checking, as it should be. So, I expect us to have a bill maybe by the end of the week. I haven't talked with Senator Harkins this week on that. We did meet last week and talked about it. And I think that we have a very good plan. Senator Harkins and others have looked at, I think, 60 different plans and possibilities before putting this Senate plan together, and it's going to be it's really something I'm excited about. It's a really good plan.
There is a great deal of disagreement about not going all the way on the elimination of the state income tax. The Senate bill does not go all the way. How concerned are you about that?
I'm not concerned at all, Richard, because a few years ago we dropped it down from 5 to 4, 5% to 4% flat tax on income. This bill drops it from 4. Our plan, as I understand it, will drop it from 4 to 2.99, and that's just 3 years ago we did that. So the Senate, our position is that we can always incrementally walk this down, and I think that's a very fiscally responsible way to do this. Nobody in the Senate says we are not going to zero. We do not want to go to zero. But we're not going to put it in this plan. We're going to work on it. Let's see how our revenue works. Let's see if we can still maintain our core functions of government, education, safety, infrastructure, health care. Can we take care of those things and still work our way to zero? I hope we can, and I think we will be able to. But just because this plan doesn't get to it doesn't mean we're not in support of full elimination eventually.
Do you believe that House Bill 1 is fiscally irresponsible?
I don't. I think that there are certainly different things in that bill that I disagree with, but I think that the Speaker and the House came up with a very well thought out, good plan that gives their side a good starting point, and I think our plan will give a good starting point. And we're ready to cut taxes in Mississippi.
Wait, you mean there might be negotiation?
There will be.
Do we get to the finish line on a tax reform bill this session?
I think we do. I'm very hopeful. I'll do my part to make sure that we do.
Senator Jeremy England, thanks so much for your time this morning. Great catching up.
Richard, thanks so much.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.